Sophia's parents, Theo and Clarette Draken, wanted to throw the best christening party their kingdom had ever seen, complete with music and games. After all, she was their first child and deserved only the best. But there was one small, teeny-tiny problem. The fairies. Oh, not just one or two, no, but all of the known fairies in the kingdom of Estonia would expect to be invited. Clarette, while human in form, was a granddaughter of Melanova, queen of the fairy kingdom of Tirshi, and as such connected by blood to most prominent fae families. Not inviting them was out of the question, and yet, we cannot invite them. Theo was adamant, pacing about their living room not long after Sophia's birth. It will be chaos. It is always chaos with the fae nobles. Clarette watched her husband move back and forth, his handsome face furrowed and worn with worry. Melanova's influence won't protect us, he said, shaking a pale fist into the air. She won't be able to save us if one chooses to curse us or our descendants. Oh, Theodore, Clarette sighed. You're being a tad overdramatic. Am I? You know how careless with their magic some fae can be, my dear. One slip of the tongue, one word said, and poof! He clapped his hands. Our daughter is a frog or a parakeet the rest of her natural life. Theodore, listen to yourself. Clarette approached him, holding his hands in her own, the midday sun warming her face and making the red highlights in her brown hair stand out. The fairies are not so cruel as that. Oh, no? He looked down at her, his bearded mouth curved in what Clarette took as an expression of distaste. Remember my cousin Margaret, your Uncle Lambert's daughter? Yes, the very same. Once prior to her son Nathaniel's 12th birthday party, she forgot to invite an old elven maid she knew. The woman took such offense, she put poor Nate under a spell, and now the lad grows toadstools from his ears. Elves are not fae, Clarette reminded him. Many times people forgot the distinction, as in the popular imagination elves and fairies had been conflated for so long everyone just assumed they were the same species. Theo brushed it aside, pointed out magical creatures of any kind could be dangerous. In the end, the parents tried to host the party discreetly at their country estate near Lake Aldon, one of Estonia's most rural areas, inviting only 4 cousins and their children, and it went well. The children played games while the parents discussed politics or business dealings. Theo, in particular, keen on hearing about his cousin-in-law's banking and financial practices, lacking in those fields himself. No one breathed a word of what they planned, and still the fae found out about their party all the same. In a cloud of purple smoke, they descended led by Lady Sapphira Greenleaf, a senior advisor in Tirshi and Melanova's best friend for over 500 years. Not looking a day over 30, Lady Greenleaf flew directly at Clarette and Theo, her purplish, glittering wings beating with a vengeance. Your grandmother would be ashamed, she pointed a slender finger into Clarette's face, disrespecting your relatives in this way. Lady, no excuses. You made your choice, Clarette, and you human. She swung on Theo, the glitter from her wings landing on his cheeks. Do you think yourself superior to us? What, no? Better? You are the youngest of the races, and yet here you are mocking members of the elder race. Lady Greenleaf, I would never do such a thing. I revere and respect the fair folk. Lies. Nothing but lies. Humans have looked down us for centuries, and you poisoned Clarette's mind against her own kind. The other fairies in her retinue cheered at this, urging the lady to continue the tongue-lashing. Where is the newborn? Neither parent answered. Lady Greenleaf sneered. It does not matter. She will receive her present from me whether she be here or not. I curse her to be bald and witless. Now the others will give their gifts. Clarette and Theo watched the fairies come forward, one after the other, giving their gifts. One gave Sophia no eyebrows, the other stripped the girl of the power of speech. By the final fairy, an elderly woman over 1,000 years old named Cleo Goodfellow, Sophia Draken was cursed to be bald, without eyebrows, unable to speak. Goodfellow completed the curse by casting a spell to ensure she never made friends. With that, the fairies flew away, cloud following. Once they left, Clarette rushed into Sophia's room, peering into the child's crib, terrified at what she would find. True to their words, the fairies stripped the baby of her hair and eyebrows. Where once brownish-red hair rested now was nothing but pale skin. And it remained like this, despite the hopes of Theodore, who thought perhaps the fairies were merely jesting. Sophia grew into a pretty and competent lady, but her hair and eyebrows never grew back, marking her out as different in Estonia. Once Sophia reached the age of 18, her father, having obtained a magical wish granting staff during her childhood by bargaining with an old goblin close to the capital city of Melania, gave it to her as a birthday present in the hopes it could cure her defects, as polite society called them. But Sophia, good-hearted and kind as she was, thought not of her own personal happiness, but those of his father's subjects. "Father," she said in the living quarters, wearing a bright blue dress and holding the staff, an ornate item with diamonds studding the tip and bottom, "I would like to grant all the people of Estonia happiness." Such a wish took Theodore by surprise. He knew well his daughter's devotion to others, but this was far beyond anything he ever expected, and it made him worry. "Sophie," he said carefully, "think about what you are giving up, what it could give you in turn. It is good to consider others, but sometimes we must also be kind to ourselves." This made Sophia reconsider slightly. "I've got it!" she said, snapping a finger. "I would like to—" Clarette came from behind, asking Sophia, for her sake, to wish for hair and eyebrows. So she did, and no sooner had the last letter left her lips than brown hair started to flow from her scalp and bare eyebrow ridges, filling out within 2 minutes, so that, if one did not know Sophia's background, they would assume she had always been blessed with lush and full hair. For weeks, Sophia enjoyed her new look, and the envy it brought from other ladies who desired it for themselves. But by the 4th week, things started to take an odd turn. Her hair did not stop growing, the roots seemingly endless, flowing down her back and well past her feet. Her nurse, Catherine Swinford, did what she could by tying it back one day, braiding it the next. But these were only temporary fixes. Theo, watching his daughter struggle with the unruly locks, finally understood the old mantra: magic always asks a price in one form or two. Magic, the fabric of creation, did not come freely, not even to the races imbued with it, and with Sophia's wish, the price was hair that did not stop, that grew as thick as jungle vine. By the 6th week, Sophia's hair was 2 yards long, and no matter how many times it was cut, or, more properly put, hacked off, it regrew faster than before. The fairy curse, it seems, wasn't defeated, but simply transformed. If the lady found a way to grow hair after all, the curse made that hair unbearable to live with. Growing frustrated and angry with it, Sophia snapped one particularly hot Tuesday. Grabbing a pair of scissors from the drawer, she started to cut off her locks. It took over 2 hours to get it all, aided as she was by Catherine. But finally she knew relief, enjoying the coolness that accompanied it. However, this brief respite lasted merely 1 hour, the hair beginning to grow rapidly again. And by the next day was back at its original length, leaving Sophia and her family with no idea how to stop it. Things continued this way into the summer months, word beginning to spread about the Drakens village that Sophia's curse was the cause of the crop failure that year. Apparently, so the farmers believed, all the golden wheat left the fields and grew as brown hair into the lady's scalp. If it makes little sense, that's because it didn't, but people, when they are afraid and scared, tend to blame their problems on a scapegoat, and poor Sophie Draken was theirs. Soon whispers started, their origins unknown, suggesting blood might ease the spirits of the soil, Sophia's blood. One farmer, not as superstitious as his fellows named John Byron, visited the Draken estate one night to warn the family of a planned ritual. 15 farmers, he said, were making preparations to kidnap Sophia and sacrifice her to the spirits in hopes of a good harvest next year. The Drakens, like any parents would, panicked. Where could they go? The fairies turned on them. Theo's family lived far away in the west of Estonia, and they would be overtaken on the road. There was nowhere to escape to. After hearing their frantic conversations with each other, Byron warned them not to run. The roads leading in and out of town were blocked off. There was no escape, not even through the forests, as squads of hunters patrolled them in case the Drakens got wind of their plans early. If they resisted, they would be killed too. Sophia, overhearing all this, made a decision neither of her parents could fathom. She wanted to sacrifice herself for their sake, to save their family. Clarette and Theodore tried dissuading their only child from such a foolish idea, but Sophia's mind was set. John Byron, a realist, did not try to change the girl's mind. He escorted her out into the streets, where a few minutes later the farmers surrounded her. The crowd tied Sophia to a wooden pole and carried her out to one of the fields most affected by the crop failures. There, dangled over rotten cabbage and carrots. Her throat was slit, blood pouring over the dead crops in an effort to feed the land spirits. Once she was dead, the farmers burnt the body and threw Sophia's ashes into the wind, all expecting the tides of their ill fortune to swing around. And they did. The crops grew rich again next spring, but those who killed Sophia never saw them. Not long after her murder, knights arrived and arrested the 15 men responsible. Placed on trial, none could defend themselves and swiftly received death sentences. Like their victim, their throats were slit and bodies burned to ash.